Okay, but did you stop and say, hey, it's me?
No, it's so funny because I hadn't seen them in years. Like, they didn't recognize me. They were like, "You are glowing. What's your secret?" And I said, "Honey, I'm healing." Hey everyone, welcome back to Honey, I'm Healing. I'm one of your co-hosts, Renee.
And this is Irina.
And we're together.
This looks really different, and we're excited for it because Renee is visiting here. So we are doing all the podcasts, filming, content creation, and hanging out.
Oh, let's be real, it's been mostly hanging out, but that's just been so good for our souls, and
Yeah.
it's just been such a good reset,
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
I am too. So
Yeah.
today we're going to be talking about our July book of the month, which was A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. And it is just it's a coming of age story about a girl that I think she's 12 when it starts, 11 or 12, like preteen. And she's growing up in Brooklyn. Her parents are both immigrants. I think her mom's side's Austrian and her dad's Irish. I think I remember.
One was German. Or maybe
I
that was
was like,
Betty's. Betty's family is German.
yeah. Yeah, this is a coming of age story. I think it starts in 1912 and it goes till 1917 of a girl named Frankie who is one of three kids. She's the eldest. And it just kind of shows her experience growing up in Brooklyn and dealing with the woes of puberty and poverty and everything in between. And I thought it was definitely something I'm happy to have read it.
It's a big one.
It is.
How big it
Oh my
is.
gosh, she's thick.
Yeah.
She
She was thick for book club.
yeah. In retrospect, probably will not be doing a page or a book that's almost 500 pages, but it was an experience.
This is one of those books that's kind of like The Goldfinch, which I haven't read all the way yet, but I think I would like The Goldfinch better, actually.
Oh, you for sure would.
Yeah. But it like takes you on a journey of the characters, and there was really there were no plot twists. There wasn't anything major that happened.
Yeah.
Just takes you on the journey of developing the characters in a completely different era. Really, this was written in 1962,
68
in the 60s.
Yeah, I remember when my mom saw that I was reading this book, she's like, "I read that book in high school." My mom graduated in 1975, so
so that was like new.
Yeah.
Do you think like this one will live on and one you will remember a long time?
Honestly, probably not. I feel like I was very underwhelmed by this book, and I hate to say that because I love contemporary lit. I love American lit. I love everything that this book stands for, and just I love the themes, and I couldn't really relate to it, and I found it really hard to stick out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Maybe if I had read it when I was 18, it would have felt different.
Because you would have related to her a little bit more.
A little bit maybe, but I think being a 30-year-old woman and reading this, it was a little bit different.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The women in the Nolan Romilly clan exhibit most of the strength and, whenever humanly possible, control the family's destiny. In what ways does Francie continue this legacy?
She's resilient. She's a fighter. She's a go-getter. So with constant adversity, it's like she's always ready to pick up her feet and do what needs to be done to help their family.
I agree. I think that she's extremely loyal to the women in her family. I think of all, most of the relationships in the book that Frankie has, are either with her aunts or her grandmother or her mother. I mean, they're all very central in the book. And I think that in their own way, they all display their own kind of strength. But I think that Frankie's is definitely intellectual strength.
Yes.
And creative strength. Whereas, her grandmother was the one who came up with the idea of the tin can in the closet and saving money and becoming literate and yeah.
If we're going to talk about one woman in the family, let's talk about Sissy. This poor woman had 10 children that were all born stillborn, and they were all born at home. And I guess spoiler, but this is our review of the book, so
Yeah.
anything in here will probably spoil the book. Her 11th child, her husband was like, "No, we're going to the hospital." And this is probably the one part that I will remember for a long time is her watching her 11th be born blue, not
Yeah.
breathing. And then you just hear a doctor yell the just most like simple thing, oxygen, and then he's back and alive and breathing and like it was just a mind-blowing moment for
Mm.
that family. Um so I saw growth in that. I like that part.
Why do you think the women of that family, or I guess of that culture, really rarely went to the hospital? Why do you think that that was?
Because they were very self-reliant,
Mm,
just like they don't accept charity, they don't accept help.
yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if anything like financial had to do with that too.
Oh, probably like doctors costing money. I
Yeah.
remember somewhere in the book they were finding the cheap doctor to
Yeah,
go
the
to get their
immunizations.
vaccines.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that scene was hard when you like because she was talking about how shameful she felt because she was dirty and
Oh,
how the
yeah.
doctors didn't they just assumed that she was ignorant and didn't know what she was talking about, but
Hmm.
they did. And then good for her for kind of sticking up for
I know.
herself.
I like that part.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
that that showed a lot of character development for her.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good.
So she's a strong, opinionated woman. I think that that's how she holds up her family's legacy of
Hmm.
women.
Hmm.
What do you think the significance of the book's title is?
So they only mention it in the beginning and the end,
Hmm.
but I think it's just if you've been to Brooklyn, I mean, obviously they have like little Central Park, like little
Hmm.
parks. It's a concrete jungle, so there are no trees. So I think the likelihood for that to grow in Brooklyn is very rare, just like the likelihood for that family to thrive is also rare. And for Francie to thrive, I see that like as her also thriving in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I think trees are a symbol of life too, kind of like what you had said, growing in an unlikely place. I think that that is definitely a nod to Francie
Hmm.
of something that shouldn't be there but is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's
And is surviving and thriving.
yeah, and is growing despite its environment.
Hmm.
And I love that it was at the beginning and end of the book because it just,
I almost forgot about it. Like,
yeah.
really reading the book, you don't think about the title at all.
Hmm. Okay. Many characters in the novel seem to feel ashamed of their poverty, but also show remarkable self reliance. For example, Katie says she would kill herself and her children before accepting charity. How and why have society's perceptions of poverty changed over the last century? I think in terms of like social media, and I hate that it always comes back to this, but I think that there's a lot more visibility of poverty now. I think of the TikTok trends of my non-aesthetic life, or not even that that's poverty, but just not flaunting wealth in the way that I feel at that time New York did.
Hmm.
Um, I'm not sure if that's when Rockefeller was there or not, but that's kind of the vibes that I get. Great Gatsby took place around this time as well.
Hmm.
So there's obviously the supreme wealth and then
Yeah.
supreme poverty, and I think that's probably still relatively true for New York, at least New York City these days.
I don't know
No?
because you could be walking around like looking like you're wearing the weirdest thing, and that person is probably a trendy millionaire model. Like,
No, yeah, 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 but
but agreed. Like,
mhm,
you go to certain areas. I don't know. I've been twice, and I haven't really explored.
yeah.
Have you gone to New
No,
York
no,
City?
it's just from my perception of
Hmm.
how it's portrayed, I guess, but
I actually feel like New York City really is such a well mixed place. I think living situations are very like separated. But as far as like being able to be in community in New York City, because it is such a communal place, like that doesn't really matter, at least from my experience being there.
Yeah, I think about Ellis Island as well, and how a lot of people settled in New York because it was straight off the ferry into this country. And now, when people come into the United States and they move here as an immigrant, they don't necessarily settle on a coast anymore. I mean, they might. I know that was kind of the case for you, but
Actually, they do. They tend to, yeah.
still,
Yeah, because your biggest cities are on the coast,
yeah, I guess.
and that's where a lot of immigration does happen.
I
Because
guess.
you're not flying into Kansas or
True. Get your horse and buggy
because
and
the first thing you're doing is getting those benefits,
mm, yeah,
all the financial aid. Yeah, I don't know what that process is like now though.
yeah,
It's it's I could see now you're not so much going to the coast now
yeah.
because now
No,
I feel like now if you're immigrating to the US, like you're moving in with family
that
and more than likely they're all over.
that was my when I was looking into my ancestry around this time. Actually, a lot of my ancestors moved or came from Poland or Sweden, and they moved to where they had family. So they settled in
Mm,
Michigan and then in St. Paul. But yeah, I guess it depends on if you already knew people or if you were starting over
yeah.
by yourself. But I'm curious what the settlement situation looked like back then compared to now.
Mm, mm-hmm.
But in terms of poverty, I think this was pre Great Depression. I think they knew that they were poor, but I think that that was the norm.
But Katie, the mom, did not want to live as if they were poor.
No.
She tipped as if she was wealthy. She did not accept any money or charity whatsoever, even though they needed it and they were starving.
Hmm.
So to me, like as a parent, like I remember reading that part. If my kids didn't have food, I would accept money. I would.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was there was a lot of ego in that
Pride.
and
Yeah.
pride. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to receive help and I think that it's not you abusing the system, it's you accepting love and yeah.
Hmm. Could Brooklyn itself be the main character rather than Francie?
I think a combination of all the characters because there are a lot of little side characters here and there, the McGarrity's.
Hmm.
Gosh, we haven't even mentioned her dad.
No. Uh,
I think all the experiences represent the lifestyle of Brooklyn for
yeah.
sure.
I think it's the people that make the place, not the
Mm-hmm.
place itself. But in that, I do think that even when they moved from neighborhoods to neighborhood, that it was still Brooklyn and it was just a different side of Brooklyn. And I think
Mm-hmm.
um, I know when they moved, they felt like it was a new chance to start over. And, in some ways it kind of was.
Yeah. Have you ever been to Brooklyn?
Mm-mm.
I felt like it was kind of just an extension of New York City.
Yeah. I'm sure it was that way in that time too. I know that I think until recently, if you lived in Brooklyn, it was like, oh, but
Really?
yeah, I think,
I've always found it super like hip
yeah,
and cool. I had a family member that grew up there,
yeah,
and it's just like the quickest train ride into the city.
yeah. I think about Sex in the City when Miranda moves to Brooklyn and they're like, ew.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, so that's, I think they're with
I mean, there are
some,
parts of New York City that are not better off
oh,
than
for sure,
Brooklyn, so
for
that's
sure,
wild.
for sure. Yeah, that's crazy.
Brooklyn and New York City in itself is such a wild experience. Like the different cultures, national, everything, the food. It's amazing.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I hope to go one day. That's on my bucket list to travel more. What did you think about her dad?
Uh, I didn't feel sorry for him. I I was really like, man up. You've got children, you've got a wife who need you, and you're letting alcohol destroy your life. And Like he had opportunities where he could have his own rehab and receive help at home, which he did a little bit, which is kind of weird. That one part with Sissy.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, that was
granted, it's not like the help that he could receive today,
yeah.
but for what they had then, like he had opportunities where he was like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and he lost his life because he cared about alcohol more than his family, and
Yeah.
I think it was his loss.
I think Betty Smith displayed alcoholism in a really accurate way, even like that even transcends time,
Mm.
especially particularly when he passed away and Katie didn't want alcoholism to be noted as the cause of death.
Yeah,
There's a lot of shame involved, and just even with the how she was receiving money after his death, and the timing of his death. It was Christmas Day, and she was pregnant, and
it,
just
it was sad.
uh, the relationship that Frankie had with her dad too. Just uh,
He only like showed up when it was kind of convenient for him and in the happy moments.
which is true with alcoholics. So,
Mm.
and with narcissists.
Mm.
But yeah, overall, what would you rate this book?
Like 3.25, 3.5, 3. If we're gonna give out a 5, I'll do a 3.
I would probably do a 3 as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, which is a bummer, but
I know, but it
they
was
can't all be 5 stars. They can't all
no.
even be 4 stars.
5
So,
stars wouldn't be 5 stars if we didn't read a 3 star every once
so
in a while.
true.
Yeah,
All right. Well,
be on the lookout for our next book that
yeah,
we will be reading.
for August.
Yeah.
We
Thanks for
will,
tuning in,
yeah,
guys.
catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.